We're going to talk in here about learning theory a little bit. We won't go into great detail because we could spend a lot of time on this, but we'll hit the high points of classical and operant conditioning. So the ways in which we manipulate dogs and how they learn, and the role of emotion in learning, right? So in the last 15 years probably, there's been a huge change in how we perceive or think of dogs in biology and learning. Because before that period, let's say before the last 20 years or so, most learning theory was talking about dogs as basically, and lots of animals, as just input-output machines. You were either classically conditioning certain responses through association, and the dog was learning what to do or not to do based on their experiences. And emotion was that fuzzy area that biologists and psychologists and behaviorists didn't like to talk about, right? You don't like to talk about it because it's difficult to measure, right? With a human being, I can say, how do you feel? Tell me about your emotional state of mind, right? We can communicate. With animals, that's not the case. So biology and psychology have sort of steered clear of emotional states in dogs because they don't know if they have the same emotional states as we do exactly. Well, we're beginning to say, we realize now through more sophisticated brain scan techniques and our understanding of brain and body chemistry, a dog's brain and brain chemistry and body chemistry is very similar to ours. All mammals are actually, right? And now they've actually taught dogs to lie still in MRI machines, and they can scan their brains while they're doing certain things, and they're recognizing that the same place in a dog's brain becomes active when they see someone they know and love, as does in a human being. The same fear center in their brain becomes active as in a human being. All the same chemicals are produced, dopamine, endorphins, adrenaline, all the chemicals that drive behavior and reactions in human beings are produced in dogs. And as dog trainers, we recognize, dogs are afraid. They have something, whether they feel exactly what we feel, they feel fear in some fashion. Dogs are happy, dogs are excited, dogs are angry, dogs are frustrated, and so for a long time, there was a kind of prohibition about talking about what we would consider human emotions as it relates to dogs. But now we're thinking it's probably closer than we thought it was, although difficult to measure exactly. But it affects learning strongly. So when we start talking about how dogs learn, their emotional state plays a large role in this. And I can't just discount it, right? If my dog's afraid, and they're afraid enough, they actually cannot take in information, physically unable to take in information. So knowing the dog's the emotional state, I have to manipulate that to put them in the right place to learn what I want them to learn. I can't just ignore that stuff. And trying to teach a dog things that it's in the wrong state of mind emotionally is not going to go well for you, to the point where sometimes they can't learn what you want them to learn in that emotional state. So it's something we have to factor in. It's not something that we can necessarily control all the time, but it's something we have to pay attention to. And it helps me recognize when I might be kind of beating my head against the wall. So when we talk about learning theory, we'll talk about the traditional classical conditioning, operant conditioning stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about emotion and a little bit about brain chemistry and stuff like that, so that we have an idea of what's going on inside the dog too.